Good morning. This is the Board of Directors meeting for Maryland Environmental Service, October 31st, 2024. It is 9:31, and welcome on this spectacular day, everyone. A nice little Halloween treat for everybody. We are going to start today with the Inspire Awards.
Morning.
Good morning. I'm very excited to announce the Inspire Award to Chelsea Bateman into the environment conservation on Saturday, September 28th during a bird walk. Attendee notified Chelsea that there were numerous geese stuck in the mud of the borrow pit, and she ventured into that borrow pit to rescue the geese in distress and navigated challenging muddy clay terrain, and her efforts were very exhausting for her to successfully rescue 17 stranded geese. She then contacted the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and they agreed to meet her on Sunday morning. And then upon returning to the borrow pit, they found that Mother Nature came to their aid and provided rain from Saturday evening to feed the remaining 15 geese. Chelsea's commitment to the environment and wildlife conservation and her proactive approach provided inspiration to her colleagues, and that is why they nominate her. Thank you, Chelsea.
Deputy, you want to join since there's no board member? Darlin, come on, Darlin. Yeah. That was a serious workout, huh?
Really, I'm surprised you didn't get stuck.
Freddie, I am pleased to present an Inspire Award to Dawn Ireland. In mid-September, a couple were traveling the eastern seaboard in their yacht when they ran into trouble and stopped into Baltimore for engine repairs. After the repairs were done, they found that they had engine coolant that they needed to dispose of, and wanting to do the right thing. The name of the couple, by the way, were the Arnolds. The Arnolds called or went on the line and found our internet, our website. And on the website, we have a list of sites where people could take used oil and antifreeze. And so they called the closest one in Baltimore, and were told that the Baltimore site could not take that antifreeze. Undaunted, they called our 800 number, and Dawn Ireland picked up. And Mrs. Arnold explained her problem. Dawn graciously offered to meet her here at headquarters, and he did so. He gathered the antifreeze that they had to recycle, and then on his own initiative took it to a recycling site for them, and they were able to do the right thing at the end of the day. So extraordinary customer service. Dawn's known for that, and I'm really pleased to present him this Inspire Award.
Important to add too that Mrs. Arnold is the one that notified us.
Thank you, John.
Congratulations to both of our awardees this month. And next up is our FY24 audit report. With us today, we have Ms. Valerie Colliman from RSM. So Ms. Colliman, it's all yours.
Absolutely. Good morning, everyone. Let me see if I can share my screen. Telling me a prompt I can't. I'm not sure if there. Oh, perfect. Okay,
There's my list.
let's see here. I really wanted to sort of just share the executive summary as it relates to what we presented to the audit committee last week. So a week ago, we connected with the audit committee as it relates to the status of the audit. At that point in time, the audit was in draft format, but I'm happy to say that the 2024 audit is complete. We issued an unmodified opinion dated October 30th on each of the major fund and fiduciary activities of the service. So essentially, we issued and went final yesterday. There were no significant changes to the plan audit strategy and what was communicated to the audit committee. So essentially, what we presented as our plan back in August is what we executed, and we did not deviate from that plan. There were 2 accounting standards that were adopted in the current year, but they really didn't have a major impact. They're essentially the types of standards that should these matters arise, this is the standard the service needs to utilize, but again, nothing of that nature came through. And lastly, we didn't have any audit adjustments. We only had one uncorrected misstatement. So what that means is the trial balance that was provided to us is essentially what is presented in the financials. The uncorrected misstatement is a small one that we both agreed along with management that it didn't merit needing to be included within the financials. So they're not misleading to not include that. And we presented that to the audit committee last week. So all in all, I know we had a tight deadline to adhere to. We've essentially completed 3 audits, essentially, because we do one for MES proper, one for Midshore, and one for the OPEB trust, and we got it done through October 31st.
Thank you, Valerie. I know that was tight.
Yes, I knew it would be too, because essentially we do 3 audits in one here, but again, we worked with management great, we collaborated, we knew what we had a shared goal in mind, and we got to the end.
Are there any questions?
Yeah, I'll make a comment. Thank you, Valerie and Addison. I think she's working about 14 hours a day. I can get the emails, all times of the day for the last few days. But finally, they finish it around 7 o'clock yesterday. So we have the final report. I don't know whether Pam, did you send it to the board yet or not? But
It went out first thing this morning.
okay. So thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments for Ms. Coleman? Okay, well, thank you very much. Oh, yes, Ms. Joes.
I wanted to thank Ms. Coleman for, I know it was a tight deadline, so thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us this morning, and thank you for all of your hard work on the audit.
Absolutely. Thank you. Bye.
All right, and in your packet was sent out the September 26, 2024 minutes. Are there any suggestions for amendments or any comments anyone would like to make? Hearing none, they are approved by consent. And next we have Dr. Glass for our Executive Director's Report. Dr. Glass.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. Happy Halloween. One of the best holidays. Next slide. So I won this month, but it was a lighter month. Deputy Furketic had 3 expense reimbursements for Tricon, the total $194.92, and I had some personal vehicle use to get to Masonville on for a tour at $4.32. Next slide. So a couple of big things happened this week that I'd already drafted my slides and they were already moving into production. But in support of the Maryland Port Administration, I don't even have the names of everyone involved at MES yet. I know I asked Mr. Klug on the way in and his resume was added to the submission for the proposal, But President Biden visited Baltimore this week and announced a $147 million federal investment in Clean Ports program from the bipartisan infrastructure law that MPA won. The Maryland Port Administration, our number one client in capital and operating, won a $147 million award over the next 4 years. And Ms. Dolliner has guaranteed me that MES will be helping with some of the work. So congratulations to all of EDR and all of MES for. Didn't get invited to the press event, and I got pinged by some people and asked why we weren't there. And I said, we didn't get invited, but we're contractors and we're contract employees, and we do the work behind the scenes that help things get done and help improve the environment in our state. And I, for one, am very proud of our work, and that's going to be a great program that really does change the air emissions and the air quality in South Baltimore, and all Marylanders should be proud of that award. So cheers to all those involved, and more to come over the next 3-4 years as $147 million gets invested. Another highlight on this report is a new engagement with Bowie State University. A colleague approached me who is going to be on the US EPA, HBCU. It's like the HBCU Environmental Justice Council that's being formed inside of EPA. She reached out to learn more about environmental work. I shared our MES 101, our intro slide deck, and we look for more engagement. The other major announcement, oh, wait a second, I missed putting University of Maryland on here. I guess I didn't have any meetings with the University of Maryland this week, although I have regular engagement with one of the professors in the Center for Environmental, oh man, it's CEEJH, it's CEEJH, the CEEJH, but it's the Center for Environmental Justice and Health. Dr. Wilson helped several nonprofits. So this is a congratulations to the biweekly grants team, and especially to Mr. Quentin Miner, our grants trainee, who is coming up on 1 year of service. But the CEEJH submitted a community change grant where MES is a partner, and we'll be helping with workforce development and stormwater. Ms. Slatnick and Ms. Slatnick was a key member on that and did a lot of engagement, but also Ms. Merkel and Mr. Miner did a lot of work on this. It's a $20 million grant, and it was won. So for the community change grant. Mr. Miner is working on a similar grant right now with supporting, we're not the prime on that grant. It's the nonprofits in Prince George's County are the primes, and University of Maryland and MES are supporters of that $20 million grant. We're also working, Mr. Miner is working, we're all observing, but he's going to submit with WSSC a similar $20 million grant. And I've got some colleagues that want to submit another $20 million grant, same program for South Baltimore. And I'll be meeting with the grants team this afternoon. We have a lot of nonprofits, so we'll use a similar model to the Prince George's County Award. I'm hoping we'll serve as the prime, but it might be better for one of the nonprofits to serve as the prime on that as well. And hopefully we can help South Baltimore and Turner Station with flood mitigation, stormwater management, and maybe even some land improvement, some what's am I looking at? Words. I know my words are missing. Urban recovery, the land, brownfield improvement. So anyway, thank you. So yeah. I'm sorry, but I was looking at Slatnick. She just should have remembered.
What you were talking about.
I know. So just for a year and a few months into the federal grants team efforts, we don't have any funds to show it, but the awards are starting to roll in, and it's really a good feeling and a nice celebratory treat on this great holiday. Next slide. And another one that hasn't shown, highlight SAS. So SAS is a major federal IT organization. We've been engaged. I've been engaged with them. You may remember seeing their name on this slide for a while, but it's finally bearing some fruit. They've submitted draft proposals to 2 jurisdictions in the state to use their technology with water probes, and all types of measurement. They may even be able to tap into data from the MESnet program to help with early warning and help with as you improve the environment, improve infrastructure, and move water away from flood areas. How does it really work? How does it impact? And maybe have data analysis of that available to it. In essence, be predictive and analytical with how we change our stormwater infrastructure and predict, but also continue to improve protecting flood areas, flood zones. So that's a great one. And the National Municipal Stormwater Alliance, that's another organization that will try to roll into this South Baltimore Turner Station proposal on stormwater mitigation. There's a new EPA-funded stormwater center, and it's actually in New Hampshire, but hey, academics are everywhere. Some great site visits this month, 3 in one day with the Montgomery County, so I got to stay in my home county for the day, but it was a lengthy trip. Went to both the yard trim compost facility first thing in the morning. I'm sorry that my selfie on the right didn't turn out well, but those are two samplers who were going off. I don't know where they were going off around that facility to measure PFAS, but they had their suits on, and I don't even know if they work for tests or for you can't see them, but they either work for tests or environmental ops, but they were going out and they brought our four-wheeler from here, our ATV from headquarters. That's why they got it was a neat picture. We were looking at some of the grounds that MES supports around the Dickerson facility, and the whole lot was cleared off in preparation for leaf pickup that's about to start in Montgomery County. So that was a great visit. Next slide. And we also visited the grinding lot staff, the bus stop pickup and blue bin delivery that we operate under Mr. Mobadi, and the MRF, the dual stream MRF in Montgomery County. We have a Deputy Freketic and I have developed a standard shtick that we give on opening welcome day for all new staff members. And we tweak it for when we make site visits. But we just wanted to convey that FY24 was a great year, and you'll see more results on that today. And we recognize that the entire agency performance, there's a lot of folks out there, like on the grinding lot, working 10-hour night shifts, 4 days a week through the winter in inclement weather. And that, for us to sit in a Class A office building and do our work, we really owe a debt to all those staff that are out there at sites and work hard every day in inclement weather and at night. So, we just express our gratitude and that the results that we've had financially and environmentally are testament to their work ethic. So we like to say thanks to them and keep on with our good work. Next slide. And then we get treats. So thanks to EDR again for hosting a great open house day at Cox Creek. And at that open house, I got the pleasure of standing next to an outgoing congressman. And I invited him, if he wants to continue his great environmental work, to reach out. I'm not going to pest him, but if Mr. Sarbanes, Congressman Sarbanes, is looking for some work, maybe he can help us get more work. But I joke, I told him he'd probably be on K Street making $500,000 a year and not really want to do MES work. But hey, you never know. If you don't pitch and try, you don't know if you'll get it. But it was a great groundbreaking. Thanks to EDR staff that put on a great show for the client, Maryland Port Administration. And I got my first shovel. So it's in my office. I got to figure out how to hang it. But a great event. Next slide. And next year we'll be there to take that first hike. So on October 11th, just to keep you up to date on our strategic advance initiative that tracks our KPIs, that are tracking our strategic plan. October 11th, we held it at the State Highway Chart Facility. So CHART stands for Coordinated Highways Action and Response Team. If you don't know, you can go look at CHART and see the traffic in your area to see how they're responding to major events. Some of us took a tour after our day to the facility where they respond and coordinate with all the jurisdictions for everything that's going on our highways. I also presented, and this is I'm happy to share my presentation with the board at a later date, but too many slides to add to this presentation. But the spirit of the presentation to senior leadership, and my goal was to convey that leaders do not get to abrogate their responsibility for their subordinates' behavior. I use the colloquial term holding the bag. I wanted to make sure that I conveyed to all of senior management that they should only expect what they inspect and document that they provide oversight so that they feel confident and that we feel confident that subordinates are doing things the right way. So for me, it was a great opportunity to lecture for about 30 minutes. And I hope that I delivered a clear message I share with the board to convey the work that I try to do to make sure that we are meeting all of our requirements in law, regulation, and policy. And then we got on to the positive stuff. We got lots of great progress on our KPIs. Next slide. So Deputy Fiketic, myself, and the operations challenge team, the great team Motley Pooh, where we were all in New Orleans at WEFTEC. That's a picture. Oh, can you go back? I mean, see, Deputy's in her purple, representing Baltimore, I guess, but maybe just liking purple. For me, my goal for the conference was to interact with AE firms, support Motley Pooh, and attend as many sessions on PFAS, forever chemicals, as I could. I did finish Robert Bilot's book called Exposure, that tells the history of it. But for the first time in my career, 32 years of attending regional and state conferences and national conferences, all of the sessions that I visited for PFAS were full. And there was a fire code requirement in New Orleans that you couldn't stand on the sides like we often do at Mako and such. So it was seating room only, and there was a line outside the doors. Mr. Lipinski says that over his 40-plus year career, there had been contaminants of concern that he couches as they're just the next craze. But I'd argue that, I've got 8 fewer years than him, but I argue that we've never had a situation like this where we face now in our industry, where multiple segments of this environmental space are challenged by this contaminant. So in our environmental operations space, in our water wastewater space, and in our technical environmental services, we all have a challenge that we're going to be facing with removing these compounds from our environment, destroying them, not just moving them from one phase to the other. And they continue to be in all of our projects. And we're learning more and more about this in the state of Maryland. There's more and more, I think I can say that there's no secret, there's litigation throughout the nation in this respect. And we're here to serve. And that other slide showing the pictures of the samplers out there near Dickerson, this is going on all over. Water, wastewater, soon we'll have an update, I hope, to tell you how we're serving counties and providing support to them for drinking water in schools that are on well and septic. So I've never been I would leave some and there would be people waiting outside to get in. So it's really, I don't know. I haven't seen anything like this. Maybe Dean Johnson or some other folks can relate to something else that was this intense. Anyway, but WEFTEC was great. It was 30,000 folks. So it was one of the largest. It's returned to pre-pandemic levels. And it was a good time. Deputy, you have any comments?
Pre-pandemic levels is what I was told. No, well, I didn't go to any PFAS talks. I went and spent time at the workforce development meetings, which were not standing room only. PFAS, but it's another major topic. Everybody is concerned about the workforce and losing, the operators are aging out. and trying to find new ones, new people to get them interested and how to get people interested. So very interesting discussions with people from all over the country.
Next slide. And how did they place? So our team went in third flight. I think you told me when we were there that they ended up scoring about mid-table.
Yeah, I think they're
About middle of the pack. But this is the first time they got back to the national stage, international stage. So we'll continue to support them. There were some injuries on the team that they fought through injury. So it's just like sports. But we hope that they continue to represent us well and represent us with pride. Just like the environmental operations team has come along. The environmental operations, the SWANA team has come a long way. And I'm letting you know there's some great success to tell about there too. But it was a great team. And I hear there's going to be a new shirt next year, I think, right? They're going to redesign the shirt. Anyway, next slide. So in the continuation of our lunch and learn every other month, we had a great lecture on emotional intelligence in the workplace by Miss Luann Tracy, who I did not know. This has been happening a couple of times, that her last name is the same as our own Mr. Lincoln Tracy, and Miss Tracy is his aunt. So, but my number one takeaway was focusing on a 4-to-1 ratio of positives to negative. When giving feedback, and the concept of building up credit for positives, so that when there are tough conversations to take place, you've got that credit. I also learned that all interactions of humans involve emotions, which as an engineer came as quite a surprise to me. But in retrospect, I believe emotional intelligence research is accurate. And then even with engineers' emotions, we have emotions involved too, for those of us that are engineers. So we learned a lot. She shared also some book titles. See about adding them. I'm going to read them first and then see if we can add them to our library, our growing library. And it was a great event and well attended. Next slide. Only 2 left. I wanted to highlight some of the new steps. Miss Jose will get an update on her question related to the comm study in the HR report. We still have 3 agency agreements that are unsigned. I do have feedback from one other agency that it's in process, but we'll keep pestering to make sure that we don't go into the legislative session budget hearings without agreements with any state agencies. That was a part of our Office of Legislative Audits, and it was a repeat finding. So laser focused on that. I have been pressuring, and it is creating some movement, that our OIT recruitment. So just like Deputy said, we're down about I don't know, their vacancy rate is 10 out of 150. But we're down some operators, and we really need to the goal is to create a pipeline between VOTEC schools and community colleges for our water, wastewater operators. And so that we just have in every region that we serve, great relationships with VOTEC high schools, and we just constantly recruit and have repeated contacts with them. Also, my name is next to this one, mentoring program, really launching some form of mentoring program, and just actually putting out a request to see who would like professional mentoring internally, and then figuring out how we can compensate people for it. And the summer internship program and the fellowship program, they will both be advertised in December for hiring in February, I think, later, or even March. So if you've got some talented undergraduate students, and even graduating, we'll be doing our first fellowship program next fiscal year, next summer, starting it. So, and you can read the rest of them on there. And there was a request, because Mr. Patel is so hilarious, for a finance to put on a lunch and learn in the spring. So as soon as I get that calendar, it'll be coming off this list. But that was a request based on his comic presentation and his deep knowledge of finance. Anyway, next slide and last slide for me. We have to celebrate. I've been working on this one. The king has retired. Long live the queen. I'm glad I got a laugh at that. I was working on that for like 3-4 weeks. So, so it is my honor to present our our new principal counsel, Ms. Carroll. Ms. Carroll has spent most of her legal career in public service, including more than 15 years as an assistant attorney general. She has served as an AAG for Maryland Environmental Service since 2018 and previously represented the Maryland Department of Environment for 8 years. Her trial experience includes prosecuting felony criminal cases with the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia and the District Attorney's Office in DeKalb County, Georgia. Priscilla also practiced for the bad guys at King and Spalding in Atlanta. Just joking. Focusing on product liability litigation. As you know, Priscilla succeeds Sean Coleman, who is retiring at the end of the month today, after representing MES and serving as its principal counsel for 37 years with over 40 years of service. Priscilla's representation of MES will continue to draw on her deep experience in litigation and environmental issues and substantial work on transactional matters. She looks forward to continuing to provide advice and counsel to MES senior leadership and to the MES board of directors on a wide variety of issues which arise from the agency's administration and its 4 environmental operating groups. In 2023, Ms. Carroll was part of the MES legal team, which received the Attorney General's Award for Distinguished Service for Ensuring Government Accountability. Ms. Carroll holds a Juris Doctor from Georgetown University Law Center. She joins Deputy Attorney General Carolyn Quattraki's leadership team. And with that, please celebrate Ms. Carroll.
Oh, yeah.
Comments or?
Just thank you so much. I've had a lot of legal jobs. You heard them read out there over a long period of time. And it's been just such a pleasure to be here at MES. And I'm just so honored and privileged to have been promoted to this position. And I look forward to many more years of service.
I would like to just add a small joke question statement. Ms. Carroll interviewed and then she had to wait and she came in and she was worried. And I said, well, no news is good news. And I was glad that it all worked out as the Attorney General did their due diligence. And I really look forward to working with Ms. Carroll. And we couldn't, in the following, Mr. Coleman, we couldn't have a better, harder working Assistant Attorney General and Principal Counsel. So, Madam Chair, welcome to take any questions. That concludes my report.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And I would like to echo Dr. Glass's comments. Welcome, tremendously welcome, Ms. Carroll. We are very pleased to have heard the announcement. Our level of confidence is already high in you, as though we've already worked with you on several matters. So again, congratulations. And would anybody else like to say anything? Ms. Joes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and congratulations, Ms. Carroll. We look forward to working with you. Dr. Glass, I just had a quick question for you in your presentation. I know you talked a lot about the PFAS, and I saw that in the MD's draft plan, the treatment plan, which I think Darlington water treatment plan was identified. Could you at a later date give the board an update on that?
Most definitely. Most definitely. And we have the meeting so I won't disclose the county, but we have staff supporting multiple counties and we are sampling pretty much everywhere. And we're providing from our A&E short list ideas for design of treatments at places where there is PFAS above the proposed MCL, which is the MCL, but not in place yet. So we'll have a full report. I'll ask Water Wastewater to present to you. I don't know if they'll be able to do it in the 2 weeks between this meeting and our next board meeting, but definitely before the end of the year.
Yeah, or even next year is fine. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have our new business report, and we do have a slide with all of them itemized. If there are any questions or comments, please feel free to chime in. Okay, thank you. Next up on the agenda is the financial update. As usual, we have Mr. Hamid Patel with us, which apparently he is quite a commodity in presenting these days. So Mr. Patel, take it away.
Good morning. Before I start, I'll tell you, as long as the revenues are going up, the net earnings are going up, I'm cheerful to present it. If it is not, it cannot be very cheerful. But so I'm going to start with the current year first. This is the meeting where we're going to discuss about the past year performance also for best plus. So as far as this year is concerned, as of September in fiscal year 24, our billable labor was 9.5 million. We are doing 9.8 million currently. So we are $300,000 higher in billable labor over last year. I had budgeted a very optimistic 5%. So the budget is 10.2 million as of now. So we are a little bit under the budgeted billable labor. I'm pretty certain that, by the end of the fiscal year, we will be 5% over, but just our goal usually is 4%. I have set up the budget this year for 5%. Just want to let you know that if we are not meeting the budgeted billable labor every month is not a concern. You will see in the subsequent slides that we do have a projected labor and projected earnings, and we are doing better in projected earnings. Next slide. So this compares the 3 months last year versus this year. As you can see, the labor sales are still higher than the last year, but is the 3.13% higher instead of projected 5%, my projected 5%. Billable hours are still higher, 6,000, and the overhead expenses are much higher. So that's why, we have like the last year at this time it was 3.2 million, now it's 3.5 million. We had a lot of vacancies, overhead vacancies last year, and most of them are filled. So that's why the overhead expenses are higher. Fringe recovery, we do not expect fringe recovery to add a substantial amount to our net earnings because the fringe cost, is unpredictable. January, we get the 2 premiums, the health insurances, and that the unemployment, the workers' comp is all determined by state. So, but we are not planning on the fringe. So if you look at the revenues right now, we are in this year, we are almost 4.8 million higher. A lot of these revenues are for the contractual services is passed to the private companies. Our main goal is to reach the targeted labor sales. Next slide. So as you can see on the very first row, our budgeted labor is 44 million. We are at 42.6 million. So we are 1.6 million under the budget. Some of these available labor is seasonal, so we have 3 pay periods in certain months, and we have more labor. It's just some kind of emergencies, de-icing events, all those adds up. This is just a straight line, this is what we project. And the bottom line, considering the increase in net assets is our net earning of 5 million, even with the lower billable labor than budgeted billable labor. Right now, our best estimate is we're going to have 5.4 million in net earnings. Of course, we want to see it higher as we catch up with the billable labor, what is budgeted, and that number will keep on going higher. But this is a conservative estimate that we are still doing better than the budgeted net earnings. Any questions so far? All right, we can go to the next one. this is the wonderful news that I was telling, we did exceptionally well last year. I presented to you, the financial statement every month, and our revenues were highest ever, our net earnings were highest ever, and how it translates. Our net earnings is used for contingency. If we are projecting any major capital expenses in the future years, we put it for contingency, and the rest of it is distributed to the employees in terms of best plus, and executive bonuses, and that is up to the board. That's why I'm presenting to the board. So what our best plus calculations are, and then I'll request the board to take a vote and pass the those amount resolution. I guess it's not a resolution, but whatever is passed, consent approved my proposed best plus amounts. So the best plus is awarded if we meet the certain goals. The goals were set up early in the fiscal year, and it has safety, education, diversity, customer and community service, environment, education enhancement. We have met all the goals. So now the choice, and it was presented to the board last month. So now the choice comes up in approving the amount for the best plus, but we have met all the goals. Next slide. For components of the best funding, we take the fringe variance, which is the difference between the fringe recovery based on billable labor and fringe expenses. It was 325,000. The overhead variance the same way is the overhead recovery based on billable labor minus overhead expenses. It was 3.5 million. Usually that is our biggest component. The project variance is mainly the used oil revenue and equipment fund revenue. One of the great advantages last year was the interest income. The interest was high, and we were monitoring daily, investing in. This interest income is the MES portion. We already gave the portion for the midshore, for the state funding, all that is given to those projects. This is the MES income. So our total fiscal year 2024 net earnings was 7.3 million, which is the highest I have ever seen. The revenues were the highest at 215 million. We put $674,000 in contingency. Contingency requirement is based on your average revenues. As the revenues keep on going up, we need to increase the contingency. So the mandate is minimum 5%. This makes it to somewhere around 5.3%. So the total best pool is 6.7 million. We will show you the comparative with the other years in the next slide. All right, so we'll go with this one. Yeah, here it is. So if you look at fiscal year, we have last 5 years. The fiscal year 2020, the best pool was 2.3 million, and then fiscal year 2024 is 3.6 million. Let me go back and look at the line which says total incentive payments, which is basically coming from the net earnings as I just described. In fiscal year 2020, it was 3.2 million. Fiscal year 2023 was another good year because of the billable labor increases. It was 4.4 million. In fiscal year 2024, we have 5 million. That is the total available funds for best plus and executive payments after taking out the contingency fund. We have 657 employees eligible for the best, and the best pool is 3.6 million, and we are recommending that the board approve the best per teammate of 5,500. Last year it was 4,200. So it's a substantial increase, and mainly because of the increase in billable labor, all the efforts for all the project managers, all the people working in the field. So billable labor increase is directly affecting the bottom line. That's why we are seeing such an outstanding results. And the best plus pool for 2.4 million, the best per teammate has a substantial increase of about 30%. Rest of the pool has the same percentage. Of course, our net earnings are higher, so the pool is higher, but it's the same percentage. The biggest increase in the best per teammate of 5,500. Do we have any slides left on that? All right, so as I described, we had an outstanding year last year. Our revenues, our net earnings, billable labor, billable hours, everything was outstanding. So in recognition of the efforts of that the service employees have undertaken carrying out their duties, maintaining the critical mission activities of the service, and achieving the service's best goals, it is recommended that the board authorize a best payment, best plus, and executive incentive. 3.6 million, the 3,613,500 for best, which is 60.28% of the pool. 2,156,500 for best plus, which is 35.97%. And 224,821 for executive incentive payment, which is 3.75% of the pool. We recommend that the best be paid on November 25th, the best plus and the executive incentive payment paid on November 26th. So I have been presenting you all year long. We just presented the summary of fiscal year 24. It was an outstanding year because of our efforts of all our employees. So I request that on behalf of the management, you give the consideration and approve the best plus and executive pool payments. Any questions? I'm glad to answer. Do you want to go back to the previous slide so you have the tables in front of you? Yes, this is fine.
This one has
Okay.
years.
So I have just to I feel not as safe as I'd like to, because I see how it's going up. Are there any indicators that we're going to be losing money because of things happening? So I'm just, want to make sure that we're not only rewarding people today, but also that we will have the ability to continue to do that because of things we're doing rather than getting the data afterwards. I don't know if that made sense.
Our revenue for 25 is quite stable. And I believe this federal grants effort is going to assist in the near term. And I think, but FY26 is not as stable, but that has to do with greater conditions in the state and greater conditions in the economy. And the primary strategy is that these federal funds will start working their way in, and they'll replace anything we lose in our embedded contractual roles. Our basic roles, FY26 for particularly large county clients, are stable, but they are not all allowing for a 5% raise. There are some larger county clients that are already pulling back on what they will agree to in budgets for FY26. And the state has been asking for lower budgets in FY26. So, but these don't have none of those future issues have anything to do with how the books have been audited and the availability of funds that you have seen before you. And we've done conservative things like fully fund OPEB, so that it is an asset now. That wasn't presented by RSM today, but they presented it to the audit committee. And we've also done things to invest in staff with the laptops or tablets that have been rolled out to water wastewater to add efficiency in our permit compliance. So, yes, I hope that answers your question.
And I would like to add that we have a very solid contingency fund. So also we have research and development funds. we are investing in technology. A lot of this are costs that are passed to the clients because we are doing for their project. But MES does have good funding if we have to do any innovation, technological upgrade. So, and we are always encouraging our employees to have the training, the tuition reimbursement. So I understand your concern, but MES is focusing, besides net earnings, we are focusing on the future growth and our skills and abilities also.
Okay. I have your addresses in case we need to move.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Patel? Aha, Ms. Joes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Patel, thank you for this presentation. Last year, I believe the best per employee, was that capped at a certain percentage of their salary, or was it just capped at a limit? Like, okay, I see it now. Okay, never mind.
So it is the total of best plus is capped at 15%. We make exception for lower salary employees because, you know, if they get the higher best amount, then they don't have enough availability for best plus. So it is 15% throughout all the employees, but we'll make some exceptions for the lower salary. I would say the employees making less than 60,000, but the cap is 15%. And
Do you
this,
have go ahead.
this does fall under 15%. We already have a spreadsheet what everybody gets, and then how much is availability for best plus. They don't get that, but you know, we have that calculation, so they are within 15%.
Okay, thank you. And then what about the executive staff? Do you have a percentage based on salary or?
Same 15%, and if the executive are not with MES for the entire year, it's prorated. So 15% is throughout employees, executives, and for employees, it is addition of best and best plus.
Thank you, Mr. Patel. Are there any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you very much. We are moving on to the Human Resources Report, and I believe we have. Oh,
We need a vote, Madam Chair.
oh, we do. On the best proposal. Okay, we are accepting motions.
So moved.
Wonderful. And a second? Do we have a second?
Second.
Excellent. Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much for approving this proposed best plus amount and recognizing our MES employees' great efforts and hard work.
Wonderful. And now we have Ms. Jones, the Assistant Chief of Human Resources, for the Human Resources Report.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
So currently our vacancy rate is at 3.73%. And we continue in our recruitment efforts of going out into the community and to career fairs to gain exposure and to bring new applicants to our position. We attended 10 events in October, and we have 4, next slide, I'm sorry. And we have 4 scheduled events. You see that we have 3 dates for the Waterfowl Festival in Easton. But in total, we have scheduled events for our continued recruitment effort. Next slide for that. So our updates for the compensation evaluation, the HR team and finance have gotten together to conduct a comparison of our mid-grade management positions against the mid-level market rates. And we are looking for the finance team to help us in understanding the fiscal impact on that, and we'll have further updates. Our job description analysis is still in progress, and we are moving through that. We have several job descriptions that are active and some that are not, but we are moving through those and we'll have further updates. Moving on to our fellowship program that Dr. Glass mentioned. So here's an overview. Highlights here is that this will be a temporary 2-year program that offers full-time positions or full-time opportunity fellowships to an environmental specialist and engineering fellow, both at the entry level positions. They'll have an opportunity to rotate between all of the operating units so that they can gain real world practical experience and work on some of our projects with the intention of completing a capstone project and being integrated into the MES internship program. We are advertising these positions beginning in December of this year. And again, it's a duration of 24 months for the program. And the application deadline is March 1st of next year. And starting the positions no later than July 1st of 2025.
I would like to add, and the intent, especially for the managing directors, is that if they have someone for a 3-month rotation and they and the intern find that that's their place to be, then they can obviously cut the program short and join their billable labor force. The intent is that we will start to have a group of fellows that are like my experiment is that they will be picked up even within the first year if they go through a rotation and they enjoy environmental ops, for instance, just to put it out there. So, well, I mean, they may, any of our operating units, or if an overhead position that has some technical need opens up, they'll be welcome to join on one of those teams since they would already be MES employees. So.
Those are all updates that I have for human resources. Thank you.
Any questions for Ms. Jones? I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
You're fine.
I'm just excited about I am excited about the fellowship program. I think we will get talented younger people or mid-career people or whoever, but you know.
I think it's a wonderful plan.
Good.
Okay, now we're going to hear from Ms. Freketic, and we're going to specifically discuss the Inspire Awards program guidelines. So Ms. Freketic.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Madam Chair. The Inspire program has been part of MES for many years, but earlier this year, or late last year, I can't remember exactly when, we started having difficulties. People were putting in recommendations and they weren't clear on what needed to be, what we were looking for. There was some discussion about all this with the team that was in place at the time. And so we said, okay, we're gonna stop. We didn't stop the Inspire program, but we stopped doing it where it went through a committee and then to HR and then to me and to Dr. Glass. And we said, okay, it's right now, as you can tell, we're still doing Inspire, but Dr. Glass and I are the ones that are right now looking at everything. So we said, what we need to do is update the program and try to make it so everybody knows exactly what they should be doing. So, the purpose is the same. We simplified the language. We gave them expanded categories. Like before, it was just a couple categories. I think we've got like 12 or 13 different categories for people to make the recommendations of, or, use as recommendations. Let's see. Okay, clear submission and evaluation. So we've got steps in there for how to submit and how we're going to review the nominations. We also have a scale. Before it was just, we had a range of dollars. Now we've got a scale. So depending on what is done, they, they can anywhere from $250 to $1,500. It was up, and it can go higher based on the discretion of the executive here. So, let's see. Yeah. Okay. Can you change the slide for me, please? Oh, you did. You're ahead of me. Thank you. Okay. So anyways, what is left to be done? The program has been drafted. We've, it's gone through here. We're all good with it. We want to make sure you are. And then we'll reintroduce it to the staff. But what we have to do is develop what routing we want and go back to IT and have them update, because the process has been in Workday, but it's pretty clunky. And so we've been working with IT. They're going to streamline it so it makes more sense. We're going to have drop-down boxes of the category so people can pick the category that they're using to recommend somebody, and be able to track who gets the nominations. We're going to be able to, we will be tracking the amount of money that we're giving out and, against the budget, because Mr. Patel is very generous and he gives me a budget every year, but we got to make sure we stay within that budget. And we'll reorganize the review committee. Okay, that's it. So anyways, we need your approval, since the board actually approved the original program. And I will be happy to take questions. Yeah.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, please.
Thanks. Ms. Brackett, could you go back to the last slide, the previous slide? So the reason for reducing the amount from 2,500 to 1,500, is that because a budgetary constraint, or is that because you want to include more people?
Both. I mean, I don't think right now we have a budgetary constraint, but it would be nice to be able to hand these out to more people. Especially since what we're saying now is that a person can only get one award each year. We've had some over the years, we've had certain people that put themselves in numerous times, or their supervisor puts them in numerous times for similar things. And we want to make sure that this is spread out throughout the agency.
Thank you. So was that the reasoning to reduce it from 1,500, from 2,500 to 1,500?
Was to make sure that we have enough money to give out to more people.
Okay, thank you.
Well, and it's obvious by what's in our packet, the actual verbiage on this. A lot of time was spent, a lot of time and energy was spent on this, and trying to quantify and refine the program. I know that I, for one, really appreciate that. It's been a very thoughtful exercise. And obviously we have Inspire awardees at almost every one of our meetings. So this is something that we see quite often. So it's nice to see that the formal program is presented to us. So are there any other questions on the Inspire Awards? And it's my understanding that you would like a motion to accept the parameters, correct?
Madam Chair, could I have a question?
Yes.
Would it require a motion if we were to suggest the reduction from 2,500 to 2,000 instead of 1,500? Would that require a motion from the board and an approval?
I think because it's an entire sort of adoption of a new program, and that provision is included within the program. I think the motion is to accept the new guidelines, which include that reduction. But would cover that, if I understood the question right.
No, instead of
1,500, she wants to get 2,000.
Oh,
And I think you can make a motion to approve this with a change from 1,500 to 2,000, if that's what you meant.
Yes, like an amendment to this motion.
Amendment, yeah.
And is that something that's acceptable? That's why I asked the budgetary part. If it was a budgetary constraint, I did not want to make that suggestion.
I would like to add something. So there is an exception allowed over 1,500 by the executive director. It is already in this policy. There is an exception allowed for more than once to the same employee by the discretion of executive director. So we have put those exceptions in. It's fine to go with the 2,002 because not everybody is going to get 2,000. We will back based on the criteria that we have established. So I'm fine with the 2,000, but just want to point it out that the executive director has a discretion to override both of those, the amount and more than once for a year.
And if I could just add
Yeah.
one thing, there have been times when, and the highlight of this this example is when we went into Back River. So this isn't in a budget category like the budgets that the directors and the chiefs, the managing directors and chiefs manage. This is in I think it is in my office budget, isn't it? I can't remember.
It's a separate.
It's a separate budget. It's a separate cost center budget. So a separate overhead section. But it's in a fungible group of overhead accounts. I could say that, right? That it's definitely a fungible. And in that example, we blew that budget by a significant amount that year to incentivize staff that were stationed at Back River for multiple quarters. And so if it is an extreme example of service, then I would approve. But it's fine to change the number. I don't think that is a problem to change the number to 2,000 for extraordinary on a regular basis, just to express that. But I hope what the new board members are seeing is that MES as contractual employees, MES, for quoting Teddy Roosevelt, we got carrots and we got sticks. And this is one of the bucket of carrots, and it's meant in genuine earnest that, for instance, when someone will walk through the mud at a DMCF to rescue geese, we're going to reward her. When someone takes a call on a weekend and stops time with their family to make sure coolant is properly disposed of, in support of the board, we're going to reward them. So that's that's what makes MES the MES way.
Okay, so it sounds like there are two options, and depending on who makes the motion and what motion they make, it could be to adopt as presented or to adopt with the exception that the maximum, except for the exceptions, would be $2,000. And the exceptions being the executive director could allow for anything above that. So both have been discussed. Would anybody like to make a motion?
I move, Madam Chair.
Okay, and just to be specific, which one would you like to move?
With the amendment to $2,000, with the exception that the executive director could, increase that amount based on his or her discretion.
Okay. Is there a second? Mr. Witt, I believe, was a second. Yeah. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of adopting with the exception or with the amendment of allowing the maximum except for the exception to be $2,000, please raise your right hand and say aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
You're here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, and next up, we have Ms. Condra with our procurement items, and we have 5 today. So take it away, Ms. Condra. That's a good thing. 5 is good.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning, everyone. The first procurement item is for the group finance, and the project name is Equipment Fund Fleet Replacement Vehicles. And it's awarded to Apple Ford and or Sport Chevrolet for the amount of 600,000. And there is no MBE percentage goal set for this. And again, this is to replace older vehicles that have very high mileage, over 150,000.
Okay, is there a motion on the floor for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Excellent. I do have one question, Ms. Condra. I see that we are buying off of a contract, an existing contract, or piggybacking off of an existing contract. But I assume when we have items like this, that there is a comparison between the specifications, for example, between Ford and Chevy or Toyota. Is that a correct assumption?
Yes, and I guess it's based on, it's replacing other vehicles, so they're gonna look for the comparable vehicle replacement. So if they had a Ford, so as you see, they have it allocated for different different groups. So if they had a Ford somewhere else, you know, they're gonna replace that based on what they do based on the needs of the operation. So it's gonna be comparable. And so if the vehicles that they're using in the Chevy based on specifics, then they're gonna make sure it's the same vehicle, but you know, less mileage.
So I'll add to that. Yes, we do search to get the best price, but we have specifications that are given to the dealer. Some of these are modified, to accommodate a heavier body or any other requirement to carry weight. But MES can go with the state contract, which is usually the cheaper price negotiated by the state. Or we can piggyback on Baltimore County or any other governmental contract. But based on the specifications that are given to the dealers, we do price comparison. In all these years, the state contract was the cheapest. Now we are finding Baltimore County, but we even found one private dealer who was going to beat the state contract and Baltimore County contract. So we went with them. So we do compare all that.
Thank you. I appreciate that explanation. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Number 2.
So this is for the Environmental Dredging and Restoration Group, and this is Oxford Dredged Material Containment Facility, and it's awarded to the Xylem Dewatering Solutions Incorporated for the amount of $215,180.02, and this is a one-time purchase. The MBE goal is 0%. An MBE search was performed, but no MBEs were found.
So move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Number 3.
So this is for the Environmental Operations Group for the project Prince George's County Organic Composting Facility. And this is awarded to Jesco for the amount of $473,385. Again, this is a one-time purchase, and this is 0%.
right, do we have a motion for approval?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Number 4, I will be recusing myself on this one for the record.
Okay, this is for the Environmental Operations Group again, and this is for the project Midshore Regional Recycling Program. It's awarded to industrial truck, $115,540.09. Again, this is a one-time purchase with 0 MBE goal percentage. And just let you know, MBE search was performed and no MBEs were found.
Is there a motion for approval?
Motion for approval.
Is there a second?
Second. Oh.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? And again, I did recuse myself on that one. Thank you. Motion has carried. So number 5.
All right, last but not least, this is Environmental Operations Group again for solid waste. And this is for the project Prince George's County Recycling for the screen upgrades. It's awarded to Van Dyke Baylor Corp. For the amount of $2,475,597.23. Again, MBE goal is 0%. This is a sole source because this is an OEM. OEM, yeah.
There a motion for
What-
approval?
I just had a question. What do
Yes.
you mean? What is OEM? I'm sorry. You said it's a sole source because it's an OEM.
Original equipment manufacturer.
Got it. Thank you.
It's a good question. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
And is there a second? Excellent. Any other questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much, Ms. Condrath. You can see on your screen the procurement notifications. I do believe we have 2 pages. So after we have a moment to look at the first page, we could also look at the second page. And if anybody has any comments or questions or discussion, please feel free to provide input.
Let's see.
Okay, page 2. Okay, thank you. Ms. Carroll, you're up with the legal report.
This part will be very short. I just want to thank you all again for your kind and encouraging words. And to let you know that with Sean's last day today, we are going to be shorthanded for a little while. And the work doesn't stop, but the 3 of us will be doing the best we can. And of course, to support you all, the agency, in every way we can while we work to backfill the vacancy. We have sent the advertisement for the vacant position up to the central office of the Office of the Attorney General, their HR department. They're the ones that take care of advertising it. We were hoping it was going to be advertised this week. I haven't seen it yet, but if it's not this week, maybe it'll be next week. And in case any prospective applicants were watching today, I just want to make sure that everyone knows that Best Plus, and executive incentive do not apply to the Office of the Attorney General.
But they got a great pension.
Thank you for that clarification.
That's all I have for right now.
Excellent, thank you. We're going to move into group updates. We've got several items here. Environmental operations is going to lead us off with Tim Ford, and I believe Eric is with us as well.
Yes,
Okay.
he is. I'll do
Excellent.
the introduction for Eric, and because this is quite an accomplishment, actually. And I think, in all due respect, Eric should be the one presenting this presentation. Eric comes to us with 18 years of experience with the Maryland Environmental Service. He started as an administration, his way up to where he is now as a landfill manager. It's a unique position in our group. It requires an understanding of civil engineering. It requires also having a solid operational background and ability to work with machinery, heavy machinery. There's a lot of logistics involved in the construction of a landfill. Modern landfill is not a hole in the ground. It is a living, breathing civil works project, and it's very complicated. How you fill it, how you handle the day-to-day operations, in addition to having to manage people as well. So Eric does a wonderful job for us, and I'm really pleased that he's able to join us today to the rodeo, which was, again, as you'll see in a minute, quite an accomplishment. Testament to his leadership skills and his team's leadership skills, his manager's leadership skills. Go ahead.
I'd like to thank you all for having me here today.
They can't hear you. You might need to.
I'll talk loud. So, once again, thank you for having me. My name is Eric Grace. I'm the manager of the Midshore Landfill Group. A lot of what we do in the solid waste industry is through the Solid Waste Association of North America. SWANA is comprised of an organization of professionals committed to advancing solid waste management to resource management. And through their shared emphasis on education, advocacy, and research. And as part of this, in their education and advocacy, they host an annual competition called a rodeo. In this rodeo, we promote the professionalism of the drivers, mechanics, equipment operators in the solid waste management field. Not only do we promote this, but it also creates quite a bit of spirit of competition among our operators, as a lot of you well know. We also provide additional services to chapters who and professionals who don't necessarily get to show off their skills. These operators are in the equipment every single day out there navigating a very dangerous working environment. And so this also highlights their skills and the safety. Next slide. So through the SWANA Rodeo, drivers and operators are eligible to compete by having a clean safety record. They can have no safety accidents for 2 years, and you have to have a required number of experience to be able to compete. When you compete, you have different categories: articulated truck, you have articulated wheel loader, compactor, dozer, as well as all your on-road trucks. Operators in their specified piece of equipment will then navigate a course that includes bucket and blade drops, how close you can get to a cone, and how close you can drop it. And the further you get to it, the closer you get to it, you get a certain amount of points. There's also parallel parking, weaving through cone, and then pushing a barrel as you would waste or something of that sort. So they compete all these, they're awarded points for each section that they compete, and then the best operator is determined at the end. Next slide. As part of my tenure with MES, I have been able to host now 7 regional equipment rodeos. This year, we hosted our 7th at the Midshore 2 landfill. The event was held in May. We were joined by people from all over MES, as well as New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware. And we had over 50 competitors competing in all of the events. When the dust settled, MES had 5 employees that were qualified to enter the international rodeo by placing in the top 2 of their respective categories. And there were 2 categories that were completely swept by MES operators. This year, we also had a first where we had an equipment operator, a driver, Kerry Davis, who competed in the truck rodeo, which is very popular, and he placed 2nd. So we sent 5 people to the international rodeo this year. Next slide. The international rodeo this year was held in Dublin, Georgia, from October 3rd to October 5th. Prior to the competition, SWANA puts on a lot of events. Operators and drivers can attend mixers and other events to meet other operators from around the country. When provided that opportunity, true to the MES spirit of helping out, our operators decided that instead of going to some of these events, in the wake of Hurricane Helene that came through, our operators, we went to the landfill and they operated excavators, compactors, and waste shredders to assist with the debris coming in. So we were thankful to meet Michael, who was the landfill manager down there, and work with him and some of the other equipment. So that was really cool. Then the next day, they held the competition. And if you go to the next slide, you can see the outstanding results. We had Bruce Carroll, who was the overall operator at the Mid-Atlantic Regional Rodeo, competed in the articulated truck, and he placed 1st in articulated truck at the national competition. Dakota Towers placed 2nd in the articulated loader. Anthony Rowe and Logan Milby placed 2nd and 3rd, respectively, in the landfill compactor. And then Kerry Davis placed in the top 16 in the roll-off division. This was out of over 125 competitors from across the country. So it is a testament to the skill of the equipment operators that we have within MES and the Midshore 2 landfill. These operators, they highlight that, they're not just being operators, but they're being successful and responsible members of the environmental operations field. And I'd like to add that none of this is possible without my leadership team, Gary Laseco, Chuck Ingram, and Tim Ford, for supporting us in the education that we've been able to give these operators, increasing their skills. And I believe it's a testament to Dr. Glass's education program.
Very good.
I thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Fraze.
Great job.
All right. Has Mr. Lipinski joined us yet?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Excellent. So I believe we are going to hear a presentation on the Rocky Gap Wastewater Treatment Facility from Mr. Lipinski.
Good morning, happy Halloween. The Rocky Gap wastewater treatment plant was last upgraded in 2018. And during that time frame, it was upgraded from a conventional to 4-stage VR, which is capable of handling 150,000 gallons a day. They used the flat ultrafiltration membrane on that upgrade and be able to meet the design limits of the plant. And the plant had seasonal. Late October, it had a 4.9 milligrams per liter nitrogen in the November to April timeframe, they had a 7 milligrams per liter nitrogen requirement. Next slide, please. So during the in 23, as we were starting to see some issues with total suspended solids, we looked at the polymeric membranes that we had, and you see on the left, polymeric membranes started to separate, and while they were still under warranty, and we brought the manufacturer in, and they looked at them, and they proposed the opportunity for us to go to silicon carbide ceramic plate membrane that you see on the right, which was to improve membrane performance, additional longevity, chemical resistance, and general resilience. So slide. Happened was we got the membranes, and this was a cooperative effort between MES and Avivo to install these. And in the December timeframe, we put together the team to work on these, and we started with the installation. Put the first train in the first week, and ran it for a week or two, make sure everything was working well. And then in the second week, we did third week, we started to replace the second train, and everything worked out really well. So if you look at some of the pictures, the picture with them driving with the forklift, they actually put together the plates in another shop, carried them down to the wastewater treatment plant, and then installed them. And the other three pictures are various stages. The one all the way to the right is them actually dropping the membranes down into the tank, and then the one next to the one where they're dropping them in, there's a picture of them already in, and then there's a different picture looking at some of the plumbing all the way to the left on how those were put together. So the proof of the pudding was on the next slide. Is the performance data. So if you look in the first column, our monthly averages for the effluent that are our limits, you can see where we're at, and the big thing was the nitrogen and the phosphorus. And if you look at the MBR1, MBR2, you'll see that in MBR1 we had non-detected on the nitrogen and on the phosphorus, and the same thing happened in the MBR2. It was rather successful, and I wish Esky would have been here to present this, because her and Mark Kaiser from out at the Western region, they presented this at the Tricon, and I thought they did a great job, and probably not doing as good a job as she did, but this is the short and sweet version of it. And if there's any questions, I'd be glad to take them now.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Lipinski? Wonderful. We're going to move on to environmental dredging and restoration with Ms. Dolinar.
Thank you. I'm very happy to introduce Matthias Arrego, who'll be presenting today. He's a senior environmental specialist with our group, and he supports coordination of programs, Masonville Cove Partnership, and outreach and education efforts as part of the Port of Baltimore's environmental outreach and education team since 2021. He's been here. He also serves on the Maryland Association of Environmental and Outdoor Education Advisory Board, and a volunteer with the Latino Outdoors Baltimore chapter. And he's also currently a student in the University of Pennsylvania's Masters of Environmental Studies program. And he's also one of EDR's rock stars. Thank you.
Thank you, Marnie. Thank you, everyone. Hello and happy Halloween. It's my treat to present to you some of the great work that we're all doing. And having access to nature and environmental outreach and education is a big part of that. And it's helping us to accomplish part of our mission as MES in helping to protect and restore.
Excuse me, can we have a mic perhaps moved a little bit closer? It's hard to hear.
Yeah,
Sit down if you don't mind.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can you hear me now? Okay, perfect. So this is a really great way to show some of the ways that MES is helping to protect and restore the environment for the benefit of all Marylanders. So next slide, please. So with Masonville Cove, we're based right in South Baltimore. Our local communities are Cherry Hill, Curtis Bay, and Brooklyn. And a lot of the community has historically either been segregated or has had a lack of access to nature and green space. Excuse me. And as part of our goals as the Masonville Cove Partnership, we help engage them directly in the community and at Masonville Cove through a variety of education and outreach programs. We engage a lot of the residents also as stakeholders in our advisory committee, and we reach out directly to a lot of our community leaders to have them design programs with us and to help them use the space. But one of the problems that we consistently find, and that MES is working to support our client MPA with, is helping to make it accessible and to address transportation barriers. So with the upcoming Masonville Cove Connector project, we're helping to support a lot of the grant application and oversight with contractors to help make sure that project is completed. And part of that also, of course, includes outreach and education. Next slide, please. So part of what we do with our free programs, we lead up to 200 annual events, and all of them are free. We were originally funded by seed funding by MPA, but through the partnership of National Aquarium, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, MES, and Living Classrooms Foundation, we've more than doubled the seed funding. And despite challenges from COVID and engaging residents and local community, we've still managed to engage on average more than 5,000 to 8,000 people every year. So in the 10 years of this partnership, we've actually engaged closer to 140,000 Marylanders. And all of these programs, some of them are recurring. You can see at the top right, that's actually a picture from one of our evening bat walks. I had the pleasure of supporting one last night. But we have a variety of other science STEM-based programs that help not only with academic achievement, but also inspiring people to engage more with the outdoors and with biology as a field. Another thing at the very bottom, you can see some of the flyers that we put out. About 30% of our local community in South Baltimore is Hispanic or Latino. So all of our events and all of our flyers, we make them accessible by translating them into Spanish and offering interpretation with our programs. And if you ever would like to come visit Masonville, we do have the only urban bird banding station in the country. And this is our second year running, and we've had more than 70 species of birds identified through the study. Next slide, please. Here are some of the other great animals that you can find at Masonville. One of the problems with the urban environment is that sometimes students at schools don't really get to see animals up close. So in a lot of our programs, we've had students make remarks that they've never seen a deer before, or even some of these birds. And we really just help make them more aware of the nature that's around them. So with some of our programs, like our mammal surveys, we'll get to look at deer, we'll get to look at other birds. We have monarch tagging. And since 2019, we've had the first return pair of bald eagles nesting at Masonville Cove. And at the bottom right, it's a bit difficult to see, but that's actually a river otter, and that was one of the first confirmed returning river otters in the city of Baltimore. So we're very fortunate and we're very pleased. It's also a great way to show that the restoration MES is helping with at the local site is actually working, and it's a much cleaner environment and helping to make a better natural space for South Baltimore. Next slide. No worries. Some of the initiatives that are led by our clients include the Masonville Cove Links Wild STEM Internship Program. We've had 5 years of this program now where we partner with historically Black colleges and universities, including Bowie and Morgan, but many more. And we've had over 30 interns who have participated. Some of them have even gone on to positions with wildlife management. One of them actually went to Saudi Arabia to help with a reserve there. So a lot of them are making a difference in the space. And you can see in the top right, the interns this past year actually got a couple of really great VIP experiences, including a visit to the Department of the Interior headquarters. With other program initiatives like Youth Birding Week, at the request of our client MPA, we've helped facilitate a second year of this summer program for local students and for anyone else who's in the area of Baltimore City interested in participating. So we've had a lot of them come and return for the program. They've told their friends about it, and they've gotten a lot more engaged with conservation and birding. And it's also a great opportunity for them to enjoy some of the dredge material management sites like Hart Miller Island, Poplar Island, and Masonville Cove. So we're helping to make young naturalists more inspired and to engage more with the space. Next slide, please. Finally, ways that we help to foster conservation and collaboration include programs that are requested of us by our community partners. So local church organizations, libraries, other groups, and conservation organizations will request that we help lead a program with them, one of them being Black Birders Week. So one group, Black AF in STEM, they actually requested that we help lead walks and bird banding for their national celebration. And this is the second year, and now the third, that will be helping to support this initiative at the end of May into early June. With Latino Conservation Day, we have the great privilege of working with the Templo de Alabanza y Restauración congregation, and they're based primarily in Brooklyn. And we've gotten to help them have celebrations at Masonville Cove and at other parks like Patapsco, where they get to enjoy recreation activities and all kinds of environmental learning with the help of other state partners like DNR, the Aquarium, and other Latino organization groups. And finally, with Urban Wildlife Conservation Day, this initiative has been going on for many years now, and we had our biggest one yet just recently in September. So we had over 223 participants, and over about 40% of them were actually community members. So we've been really making a huge impact in the local area of South Baltimore. The restoration of the site is evident, and we have over I believe 270 species of birds now that we've noticed at the site. And it's just a real gem of green space for that area. Next slide, please. And that's all.
Hold on.
Thank you. I know I live in Kent County, and it's very rural here, and I see all kinds of mammal species and everything else all the time. And so I like the way you phrased the one comment in that some of these young school-age children have never seen a deer before. It's a wonderful program. I think it's fantastic.
Thank you.
So Ms. Slatnick from our Technical and Environmental Services is up next.
Thank you. I thought I was going to have a cool slide at the end of my presentation, but I had to go after Mateo, so not really fair. First one, please. So my presentation today is on the work that we did with the Maryland parks for solar at some of the state parks. The Maryland Park Service received about an $880,000 grant from the Maryland Energy Administration, and that was for Public Facility Solar Grant Program. So the grant was intended to install solar on existing state infrastructure to provide electricity, reduce downtime when electricity was high, to get away from the grid during peak demand. So in partnership with Maryland Parks, MEA actually covered MES's portion of the work. That was the procurement and the construction oversight and that sort of thing. And Maryland Parks added the remainder of what was needed for the total installation, which was another $225,000. So it was a group effort between Maryland Parks, MES, and MEA to get this installation on 15 different locations over 5 parks. Next.
Yeah.
I think we went to, just back one, if you can.
That's the next one.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Okay, and before the grant was awarded, MES worked with MEA and one of our contractors to evaluate 58 of the buildings to decide which ones would be the best options if the grant were to be awarded. And that was sort of a phase one that we did. And from that phase one, we went from 58 different buildings to 19 buildings that we moved forward to a phase two assessment. And then from those 19 buildings, we came up with the final 15 by going through a more thorough evaluation, which was both going out to the sites, taking a look at the buildings, and then performing a desktop analysis to look at each building's solar potential. We used software that was publicly available to estimate the energy production and the cost of electricity for grid connections. So that then led to the 15 buildings that we ended up recommending that were then included in the grant, which was then awarded.
I had a question on that last slide.
This one?
Yeah, I mean, this one and the other two previous, I think as well. So the sizing of these facilities on these buildings, was the sizing a result of the demand at the site, or are these facilities being sized to export energy?
No, the intention was to look at the power for the need for the power on the entire park and to provide enough power for the park. It wasn't meant to put power back into the grid. You'll see on one of my last slides exactly what amount of power was able to be gotten from solar, and only one of the locations put just a little bit back into the grid. But the intent was just to supply the park. So it was the power needs across the whole park. What could we do for those power needs?
Okay, I appreciate that. And then also, it talks about hybrid power system. Is there battery paired with any of these systems?
No.
Okay. Those are all the questions I had right now.
Okay. Okay, and then for the final selection, we came up with the 15 locations across 5 different state parks: Deep Creek, Assateague, Bear Hill, the management area, the Merkle management area, and then Sandy Point State Park. We awarded the installation contracts to 3 different local contractors because we were all over the state. And one of those was an MBE who self-performed most of the work. And then this is the slide I was talking about. It shows what amount of power was estimated for the park's use and what percentage of power is now coming from the solar. So it's only Fair Hill that is typically giving a little bit more than the park demands.
Okay.
And then this is
well, just one quick question on this. And the reason why they weren't sized to 100%, was it just a space limitation on the roofs, or was it a budget?
Yes. So we started to, we wanted to put them on more locations, but not all the roofs were appropriate. They couldn't support the panels, that sort of thing. That's why they got sized down. So, I mean, most of the parks don't have big buildings. So that was kind of our limiting factor. The goal, what we went in, was to provide power for the entire park, but we were limited by where we could actually put the panels.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yes, sure. And then my next slide was supposed to be my pool one, because this is just a Google map from Sandy Point State Park. That was, we looked at it mid-October, and the solar panels are already showing up on Google. So I thought that was cool, but not nearly as cool as Matthias. Thanks, Matthias. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, that's the conclusion.
Well, that's nothing to sneeze about. That's still a pretty cool photo.
Very.
Is there any further questions?
Any questions?
No.
Wonderful. All 4 presentations were fantastic. Old, new business, anyone? Okay, so meeting announcement. The next meeting is Thursday, November 21st, 2024 at 9:30 a.m. Just the way the calendar falls, and Thanksgiving, that is only a couple of weeks away. So my guess is we probably won't have a whole lot of procurement items on that one, Ms. Condra. So, but we'll see. We'll see. We do have a closed session on the agenda, and I assume we are going to adjourn the meeting from the closed session, so we will not reconvene in open session today. And we are closing this meeting under, excuse me, the general provisions article, section 3-305, subsection B, to consult with staff, consultants, or other individuals about pending or potential litigation. If anyone objects to closing of the meeting, please contact MES at www.menv.com/contact-us/. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Wonderful. All those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we are moving into closed session. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a wonderful
Thank
Halloween.
you. Good job.
Hang on and they'll move you into the room.
Oh, you could.
Yeah, thank
You
You taking a train up and down, or you going over?
No? Yeah. Well, that's so weird.
Yes, I do. I was late, so I get to stay late.
Is this saying that the breakout room is going to close?
Sorry, I started it, but I didn't move everybody automatically, so I was going to restart it again.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and I can't hear anyone, but they must.
I see that Mr. Bots hasn't joined. Let me try that again.
I've got a message saying all breakout rooms will close in 18 seconds.
Yeah, so I just was going to restart it.